Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software, creator of the One Day Summit, and your host on the Virtual Summit podcast. I'm excited. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different on this episode. I've got a special guest with me, Andrew Wells. Andrew, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, what we're going to be doing today is a little bit different than our typical podcast episodes. Andrew is an aspiring summit host who has a summit coming up actually pretty soon. And so we decided to hop on a quick consultation call and work through some of Andrew's questions. So we are recording this live. We're not editing out any mistakes, anything like that. You're going to hear me work through Andrew's summit questions, issues, and ideas here live and in action. So hopefully many of you who are aspiring summit hosts yourself can implement these same instructions and information. All right, so let's jump into it without further ado. Andrew, why don't you start us off by kind of giving me a little bit of background on, who you are, like what's your kind of expertise or specialty briefly, and then what's your summit idea?
Great. Well, I'm a chiropractor. I've been practicing now for almost 10 years and ran a traditional chiropractic office for a couple of years and then made a transition to medically integrate our office, which means that we just added more services than a typical chiropractic office. So we did really well with that model, opened a few offices, and then ran into a lot of hurdles. So we had trouble with insurance. We had trouble with the entire insurance model as healthcare changes. We found that we had less reimbursement. We were running a really high overhead type office. And so we had a lot of challenges just being profitable and really staying congruent with how we wanted to operate our office and help patients as chiropractors. And so one of the things as the challenges kind of mounted, we discovered a therapy, regenerative medicine, which some doctors call stem cell therapy. And we found it was a fantastic therapy option that helped our patients with bad joints, helped them avoid surgery, cortisone injections, and a lot of medications that they didn't need to be on. And not only did it help the patients, we found it was a really beneficial therapy from a business standpoint. So we cut all the insurance crap out of our office, went forward full steam with regenerative medicine. And now I have a coaching program, and I'm a consultant, and I show other chiropractors how to be successful in practice without having to rely on the insurance model, mainly using regenerative medicine as a therapy they can add to their chiropractic office. So that's awesome. What I do.
Let's jump into your summit topic then.
Yeah. So the summit topic is the dangers. I call it the 7 deadly sins of integration. So I'm warning chiropractors about the dangers of integration, all the pitfalls, the same stuff I went through in the last 5 years. And so what I'm doing is providing doctors with great value and service and tips and insights from other chiropractors, other experts in our field, not only to help them with the regenerative medicine program, but just to help with marketing, help with sales, help position themselves in their town as an expert. And that's why I brought on the summit idea for, Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's let me ask a couple follow-up questions to just help me with some clarification. You're thinking of doing it's a one-day summit, right?
It is.
Or is it a multi-day? Okay. So that's cool, especially since the category is so niche, which, I'm a big fan of niching. One-day summits are going to be great for that. It would be harder, I think, to do a multi-day summit in the niche of integrative medicine in chiropractic, obviously. I mean, you could still do one, but I think you could get the exact same or better results from a one-day summit. So that's great. Additionally, with that, so you got the 7 deadly sins of office integration. What is the actual, what's the top problem that you're solving? What's the top problem that your audience has, that the chiropractor who's doing integrative medicine has?
So to back up a little bit, I don't think my prospective candidate is not someone who's currently integrated. It's someone who's potentially looking to integrate. Mm-hmm. And so the top problem would be offering a a valuable service to their patients and to their business that helps the patient, that's profitable, but doesn't mandate that they are in the office 60, 70, 80 hours a week like I used to be. So chiropractors, I think in general, always have the problem of getting new patients and being profitable. Those are the two big, their two big needs. And that's what we're serving with regenerative medicine.
Virtual Summit's software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summit's software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
Okay, so that helps me right there. So it's because what I like to do at this point to narrow down, and then I'll go ahead and kind of switch over to like what top questions, problems, things that you want to cover on this call. But when it comes to the avatar, as you're aware, I know you're an avid fan of the podcast and some of our live workshops as well. With the actual issue here, it is really important that we identify the top problem, because especially in a niche like this, we have a huge opportunity, but we have to talk their message. So talk to the exact problem they're searching for right now, because as you're aware, as I'm aware, like in business, there's a lot of problems going on, right? Like one day I may be focused on email marketing. The next day I'm focused on cash flow, so we want to make sure we're talking to that one problem. That way it's going to attract the qualified people, which are going to increase conversions on everything else. So with that, I like to actually look at it from like, tell me one story about that chiropractor right now. Like, tell me what the conversation he's having with his wife after one of his worst days, after one of his bad days. Like, what is he saying? What is he thinking? What is he feeling, or she?
Yeah. So my prospective client, he goes home at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. He's tired. He doesn't want to have that conversation with his wife, because in the back of his mind, he's worried about, what am I going to do for marketing next month? How am I going to pay overhead? How am I going to be profitable? And do I really want to be doing this for the next 10 years of my life? And his wife already knows that there's that pressure, and she doesn't want to talk about it either, because it creates issues at home. And there's stress
right here. Okay. So this is good. So I'll give it a quick example, because I want to dive into this. Like one of our one-on-one coaching clients, he's in the freedom, the family entrepreneurship freedom space. And we talked about how his avatar is leaving, wants to quit his job and then go out and be his own boss. So what was the conversation he had to have with his wife, who is pregnant, and let them know that I'm going to leave work, So, cause now we can feel this. What you just said here is, we want to find these stories that they actually, because we can relate to people on an intrinsic level with stories like that. So let's talk very quickly about that feeling right there, how his wife knows and he doesn't want to have this conversation. What is going through his mind? How's he feeling? So instead of like talking about the whole week or the day, the morning, the afternoon, like let's talk about that one moment in time.
Yeah. So I think, I think the doctor feels like a failure. Is that what you're after? What is the doctor feeling?
What's he feeling? Yeah, like exactly. Yeah. Like let's talk through that. Like right there, that moment when he's coming at home, and we were saying that there's struggles happening with the family because of this, right? Like that's as powerful or more powerful than say, hey, do you want to get new patients? Right? Like, the family problems, like, again, that's where, so let's just talk maybe one or two examples of how that's happening, what's feeling, or what that causes, something around that.
Yeah. Well, I think, if it's a husband, their job traditionally is to be the breadwinner and provide for his wife and his family. And if the doctor can't do that, or has doubt that he can do that month after month after month, eventually he's going to feel like a failure. And that doubt creeps into every part of your life. It creeps into your relationships with patients. It creeps into your mood when you walk in the office, the mood when you go home. And it eventually leads to depression. It leads to anxiety. It leads to then searching out desperately for options. And you're not, when you're in that position, I don't think you're thinking clearly about your future. You're just trying to survive. And survival mode is not a good place to be for very long.
And we all know that. So like this is great. So we'll go ahead and move forward from here, but I like to always paint out at least one of those examples because you're going to have multiple of those. It's really the best thing to do is look at who your avatar is. And instead of trying to generalize them, like it's a person who's struggling with patience and this and this and this, is to look at one or two or three of those, like those actual moments that happen that we all go through in business. And if we can paint that picture, like they've automatically related with you and the relationship is so much higher, which means they're going to go further with you afterwards. So I like to always at least cover one or two of those. So let's actually just jump in first with what questions do you have? Like, what are you wanting to work through on today's call?
I think my main question is how to find and how to plug in the right people for each summit that you do going forward. Because in the first one, as I'm planning out my first summit, I've got, a list of chiropractors. I have my Dream 100 list of people that I would love to work with. And some of those people are a little bit out of reach at this point. So one of my biggest struggles is just finding, I think I have a decent speaker list for the first seminar, but I'm already concerned about the next one. And especially when people really don't know who I am, I haven't been putting myself out in any kind of online space. So I think that's my biggest challenge is starting to network, build a list, and for people to trust me. If I were in 10 years down the road, and someone were to call me and say, "Hey, I'm Dr. Wells. I'm doing a summit. I'd love for you to be on and promote it." I don't know how I would see that, especially if I don't know the person.
So I've got a couple things in my mind, but first I just want to ask, so like, what is your actual question then?
So my actual question is, how do you build a solid ongoing funnel of potential speakers?
Okay. So when it comes to the speakers, I mean, you can go as far in advance and as complex but effective as you want, or as kind of short term, moment by moment. Usually I'm going like summit to summit. I'm not really like working on two or three as far as like I'm thinking of the speakers for 2 or 3 summits down. I'm just thinking of the speakers for the next summit. We may have 2 or 3 summits working at the same time. But what ends up happening, the bottom line of it is they don't have to know you necessarily. There's 2 ways with this. Of course, a warm intro is always better. Of course, if they knew you, it's even better, right? A warm intro is the next best thing, which we can make happen in the sense of like, we're all only 6 degrees of separation. And so we use what we call the stair stepper approach. But the other aspect of this is there's 2 things to this. 1, it's got to be all about them. And 2, it's got to be, what are we doing in advance? So let me explain it like this. What are we doing in advance? So if you've got summits coming, right? Like everybody's around on social, et cetera. And, I talk about this a lot, how especially those of us kind of in the limelight, most of us just hear the negative all the time. We have people complaining about this or that, or you got trolls, critiquing this and that. And so when people are positive or complimentary in any aspect, those people stay on our radars for a while. And if you do it ongoing and or provide some type of value to the audience, to their audience, and or are a customer especially, then like essentially you're going to get whatever you want. So the way we actually talk about this is you identify like who are some of the top ones that you think are out of your reach. Because some of this will take a little bit of time. So you don't want to do this for 100 of them, right? You can actually use some of them after you get them to put you in touch with a warm intro to some of the other ones, which makes it much easier. But essentially you're going to reach out to these, or you're going to find out where these speakers hang out. Are they on Instagram? Are they, or, these influencers or leaders, whatever they are, where are they at? Are they on social? Are they not on social? If they're not on social, we have other ways. But essentially, we want to provide value. Most of them are going to be on social. And even if they're not, usually their team is. And like, so for example, like I'm not always on all my platforms, although it may seem like I am, but my team lets me know when there's positive messages because they get excited too. They're like, Mark, this person said this, check this out. And that for sure gets into my inbox, right? Negative stuff, it gets blocked by the assistants. So if you're constantly providing, and we're not talking creepy level, fan stalker level, right? Obviously, we're talking like once a week or even once a day, like, oh, that, if they do a Facebook Live or they got a post, you like it, you actually listen to a piece of it and say, hey, that was really, really powerful information you said about this. We're not talking about anything weird or crazy. It's just a positive reinstatement. Those things stand out. Now, about being a customer, like, honestly, you don't even have to buy like super expensive stuff. Most people have like Tripwire or low tier programs, right? Like beginner level stuff for like $19, right? Like some of our Tripwire stuff is like $9. If you buy any of that, you're immediately a customer. Customers are always valued higher than everybody else because you're a customer. So it means you're a part of the tribe. So if you buy anything, even a low cost thing, you're immediately, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I'm Andrew. I love everything you're putting out there. I'm also part of X program or course or whatever. Immediately you're higher. So those are a couple little strategies at the beginning just to stay on the radar. And because of that, they're going to be way more willing to help you out. Like our customers, like people's customers, same with your patients, right? If your patients come up to you and ask you for something, you're going to be way more willing to bend over a little bit backwards for them than a random person that just walks in who's never been a customer before. So keep that in mind. And then the next aspect is moving it over to the email, right? Get into the email, send them an email. And again, it's not an ask at this point. Like this is about, like you were saying, the funnel, right? About in advance, what we can do so we're ready for the ask. Like if you do this right up into an ask, they're going to be like, okay, you were kind of using me or playing me here. Right. So don't do it like that. Just do it, like, hey, I'm going to have a summit in 2 or 3 months from now. I'm going to just find the top people I want to connect with. I'm going to provide value to them and their tribe. I'm going to let them know I appreciate them. That way, 2 or 3 months from now, when I reach out, it's going to be a no-brainer. You do that, it's almost guaranteed unless they have some kind of reason why or their calendar's filled. Okay, so there's that. The other aspect is to understand you don't always need everybody to email for you. Okay, and I don't know if you have other topics you want to get into because there's more I can keep going with this. Is this kind of your top question you want to get through?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. So, because the thing is, it's not always about getting every single one of the speakers to email for you, especially on a one-day summit, we want more of them to email than less, right? But let's say you have one person that's going to make a big difference. But honestly, in most cases, I really am not going to I don't care how big they are. I don't really want them on my summit unless they are going to promote me, right? Like, because a lot of times the bigger names are going to be like, oh yeah, I'll speak on everything, but I'm not going to promote it because I can't, because my promotional calendar. I'd much rather have the person who's just getting started, or not like just getting started, but they have some expertise. They have a tribe or an audience. It's not huge, but they're hustling hard to build their business and their brand. They are willing to take any opportunities that come their way, and they're willing to promote it. I'd rather have 10 of those than 5 of the influencers, right? So, or 2 of those versus 1 of the influencers. Now, the other thing is with some of the ones that are like in like higher level, but would be more like, they're not like, my buddy John Lee Dumas, who's not going to promote any of our stuff, right? Like he's not going to promote anybody's stuff unless you're like Tony Robbins or Russell Brunson. But like, if you go to people that are, like at a higher level, but they're still promoting people's stuff, a lot of times you're right. They're not going to be like, I'm not just going to promote your summit because I'm speaking on your summit. But if we can provide them with value and incentives, speaker incentives, then a lot of times we can.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your virtual summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
So there's several different ways we can do this. So one, I talk about just what do you have of value that you can provide that would be of value for them. So for me, for my speakers, I provide some of my programs that show them how to get on more summits and how to monetize being on summits, which is of huge value for them. It's a paid program that I give to them for free. I also add incentives. Anybody that generates 1,000 leads gets access 1 to a year of my virtual summit software, as well as I have a couple other additional things that I throw in. So now they're not only considering promoting it, they're going, well, if I promote it just a little bit harder, I can get to this level. So you're trying to find ways to incentivize them and add value to them to get them to promote. One of those could simply be you identify 2 or 3 or 1, essentially, featured speaker that you want like to push hard for you. That's going to be the game changer. And you say, look, here's what I'm going to do. You promote hard, you hit whatever minimum it is that you want them to hit, make a minimum, because you got to hold them. They have to have something they have to like hold accountable to. But then you say, I'll do a partner webinar with you to this brand new list afterwards, or I'll let you send 1 or 2 or 3 promotional emails to it. Like, honestly, I'll promote hard for a potential opportunity to do a sales partner webinar to a new list. And so will they. So it's about thinking of what do you have of value that they would want. And what do they want? They want sales. How do they get sales? They get sales by getting leads. How do they get leads? It's exposure. So what can you do now to give them exposure? You got this new list, promotional webinars, promotional emails, our partner webinars, promotional emails, co-blogging. They can blog to your group. You can bring them on for Facebook Lives, like things like that. You can also promise to if they have an upcoming, promotion, which they all are going to have, you can say, hey, we'll back you on this and promote for you. So you see how there's all kinds of ways to get somebody to promote for you, even if you think they wouldn't promote for you. It's about making it valuable to them. And then kind of the last little piece I'll say on this right now is when we were talking about that outreach, about like, because you said, like if somebody reached out to me 10 years from now and said, hey, I'm so-and-so and please speak on my summit and promote it, you're right. They're going to say no. But that's not how we reach out to them. We reach out to them about making it about them and adding value. Hey, Andrew, my name's Dr. Mark T. Wade. I'm the host of this summit. We've been doing success in whatever you've had success. Like if you've gone through our interview like a pro training, we talk about the perfect intro. You can actually use aspects of that in your email of, what is something, a wow factor. It doesn't have to be a Nobel Prize. It doesn't have to be you've been on Fox News or Entrepreneurs. You've done something that's going to sound notable that honestly, most people don't really care as long as you have something. So if you say that, they're like, okay, this isn't Joe Schmo. It's somebody with credibility. Honestly, most of us don't know everybody out there anyways, right? Like as you get to certain levels, you don't really know who those up and comers are, but we want to be connected with them because those are the up and comers. So most of them are going to pay attention if you paint it in the right aspect. The second aspect of that, again, is it's not about you. It's about them. So like one of the strategies I like to do is say, hey, I find what they have coming up, and you can do that a variety of different ways, but then I reach out to them and say, hey, like they have a new book coming out. Everybody's open about what they have coming out, right? They foreshadow it. So I say, hey, I would like, on my subject lines, I'll say, I would like to promote your book launch, or I would like to blah, blah, blah. I would like to share your book to my community, or whatever they have coming out. So yeah, that's exactly what I would do as far as the reach out on the email. Again, when it comes to speaker outreach, honestly, it's much easier than we think if we just always think, again, this is the same with the audience, but what's in it for them? Like, what do they want? If we think of it like that, it's essentially a no-brainer. And of course, just know going into it, they're not all going to say yes. And it's okay. We don't, especially with a one-day summit, we don't want them to all say yes. We want 5 to 10, maximum 12 or so speakers. So cool. What questions you got?
So once you have somebody on board, they're going to be a guest speaker on your summit. How do you then take that relationship and nurture that? I mean, I'm guessing that most of the people you have on as speakers is the beginning of a relationship or somewhere toward the beginning. Mm-hmm. How do you then take that relationship and nurture that for more of a long-lasting relationship?
Absolutely. So it's all about the follow-up process, right? Like if it's not processed, if it's not planned, it doesn't happen. Like that's why I'm always so big. Like normally I always talk about messaging, because if your messaging is not correct, nobody opts into your summit. Nothing else matters. And then the post-summit profit strategy, because nobody actually thinks past the summit, unfortunately. And then if you don't have it planned, it's not going to happen. And then therefore it's like, okay, I generated this leads, but now it's cold and I didn't make any money for it. What was the point? So same thing when it comes to speaker recruitment and onboarding and follow-up. It needs to be planned. Like if you wait till last minute to do it, like you get busy and overwhelmed, especially if your summit goes well. You got this new tribe of people that you got to serve. The last thing you're thinking about is how do I plan out my speaker follow-up and write these emails, and when did I reach out to them, etc. So we actually have a follow-up process. The emails are relatively templated, but I always go in and put some special sauce in it. A lot of it I do right after I get done recording my interviews. I actually have this a part of my post-interview process. is like I give myself 10 minutes to write down any like edits that need to happen in the video. So my video editor knows exactly where to go and do it. I write down as the interview's going, like any special places where I'm like, that would be a good promo clip. Let's grab that. And then I also write down what were 1, 2, or 3 things that I was touched by, impressed with, whatever, from that speaker, because that's going to go in my follow-up process. But if I have to try and think about it a week or 2 weeks later, I'm like, what was in that? And now I got to go back to the interview. That's not going to happen, right? Or it's going to come off super generic, or like not like really like, okay, this was kind of like high level or surface level. So it's just planning it. You got that. So then like my follow-up process, my speaker follow-up process starts the day of. And again, my team helps me with this. If you're doing this all on your own at the beginning, don't do it fully. Just have a handful of emails. But the relationship happens in the follow-up. That's really where it happens. What happens on the interview is magic. That's like the first date. When you get like, there's something about doing an interview with somebody, doesn't matter what level, when you get off of it, you got your serotonin running, you're just feeling good, right? The speaker too. So actually in this interview, like a pro program that we're talking about, we talk about the post-interview chat. One of the things that most people do wrong is after the interview, you actually spend too much time with the speaker. Like they're on a high right now. Get in, get out, let them get off going, that was amazing. I really like that person, versus them being like, I love to keep chatting with you, Andrew, but I got to hop off to my next interview. We have a set little process where I make them feel good, celebrate the win, let them know what's coming, remind them of the promotional schedule, and then I get off, because they get off going, wow, that was awesome. And then you send an email to them 2 to 3 hours later, telling them how awesome they were with something specific from that. So I'm giving you examples here, but like this is the whole thing, right? So then we follow up a week later, then we follow up a couple weeks later. Now, granted, at the beginning, after the interview, it's about the summit. But then after the summit, I have a follow-up process as well. And we try and do things that have surprise and delight to them. It doesn't have to cost money. You could simply send them a video email, because everybody gets email, but like a video email is very few and far in between. So like BombBomb or Video Fruit or whatever, they get an email from you just saying, hey, I wanted to follow up with you and let you know that I really enjoyed our session. Is there anything that you have coming up that I can do for you? Now, one of my good friends, Shanda Sumner, had a strategy that she uses that I absolutely love. So I'm going to give her credit for it 3 times, then I'm going to take it. Just kidding, Shanda. But essentially what she does is she sends an email out to them just saying, after the interview, was like, you know what? I'm so sorry. I was so busy thinking about the interview and wanting to provide a great experience for you and my audience. I forgot to just ask you, like, what are you up to? Like, what's going on? What are you excited about right now? Nothing about me, all about them. And then what do you think they're going to do? Everybody wants to talk about themselves, or they got something coming up. So you let them give you something, and then do what you can to support them. If it's sending out an email, send out an email. If it's connecting them with somebody, connect them with somebody, because that goes a long, long way. Too many of us are like, nope, like I'm too busy taking care of me. This is all mine. I can't, this list is mine, whatever. Try and help people, and then that's how the relationship happens. Now, some people may take advantage of it, but in my experience, a majority of them will not. If you do things for them, they're going to turn around and support you. Now, of course, be intelligent about it. Like, don't ask for little things. If you know you have a big thing coming up, do more for them and save up the ask, but if you don't have a big thing coming up and you want them to shoot out an email for your next summit, or, hop on a Facebook Live with you or whatever, they're going to do it.
Got it. I love it. Yeah. I kind of knew that strategy, but going into it as a newbie in the summits, I didn't approach it that way. So it's more of asking for what they can do for me versus the other. And it's funny because I know that I just didn't put it into practice. Well,
what's crazy? Like, even it's how it always is. When you're working on your thing, you're so close to it. It's sometimes hard to see the answer, even on my own summits. Like, obviously I do summits every day, but when I work on my summits, I have to ask my partner, hey, will you take a look at this? And a lot of times she goes, Mark, what are you talking about? That's so off topic. You need to go here or here. And I'm like, oh, how did I not see that? So it's totally understandable. The biggest aspect with it, though, honestly, is planning it out. Because if you get to that point and you haven't planned it out, you're so busy doing whatever you're doing that you're not actually going to do it. And then you're really honestly, one of the most valuable, unquantifiable results from a summit is the relationships with the speakers. That's where $1 million deals happen. That's if you can get 2 or 3 of them to promote a launch you have coming up, to promote a conference, et cetera. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars, right? So that's really where the money is at long term. Of course, you have your audience that you can then monetize and provide value to as well. But don't forget the speakers, which you're not going to. I'm more talking to all of you listening in to me and Andrew right here. So Andrew, we've got a few more minutes left. What other kind of high level or top of mind things you got for me before we have to wrap up?
Based on your experience, is there anything that you would, any mistakes that you see newbies making, like common mistakes that you would, can give some advice on, or some pitfalls to avoid that maybe I haven't thought of or brought up?
Well, high level, and if something pops out into your mind, ask me, but just from a higher level, obviously messaging is most common aspect missed. So every day I have somebody either message me, post, comment, whatever, saying, hey, my summit didn't convert very well. What was wrong with my home video, for example? And I go look at their summit home video. I'm like, it wasn't your summit home video. Your title of your summit was 20 words long. Nobody's reading that, not alone understanding it. Confused mind says no. So it's really about having a clear but effective call to action messaging, et cetera, for whatever it is, and that message is continuous throughout your whole summit. So on your landing page, the top of the fold, then throughout your home video, and then throughout your actual summit and your email copy, et cetera.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
So that's a big one. And I know it sounds like, okay, Mark, you say that all the time, but it's the thing everybody messes up. And I understand it's hard for me as well. But then the next aspect, which you've been hearing me talk a lot about right now, is the interviews. Really important. Nobody wants to watch 5, 10, 20, or 30 boring interviews. And most of us are just not good interviewers. Whatever, we're not really great at interviewing just because we haven't had the skill or the practice. So it's important to put some time and energy and thought into that. The other aspect is not so much of a mistake, but it's something to make your summit better. Is any kind of creativity you can throw in there that creates engagement is going to improve your results or your success. So anything that is different, let your personality shine through, and don't have it just be a passive experience. Is there something you're doing that your audience can do with you during the session? Is there a way that you can spice up the interview so it's not just a Q&A interview? Can you dress up in costumes? For the foodies out there, if you got a nutrition summit going on, can you actually be in your kitchen and your speaker in their kitchen, and you let all the attendees know the ingredients list in advance, and then you cook something together? What can you do that's different? Because that's the biggest deal. People they see so much of the same all the time that they start to tune out. So what can we do to make it different and engaging? If you can get them, what we call them is action opportunities, a way for them to engage, even if it's not during the actual session, right? If in the session or in your email, whatever, you get them to do something active, post a comment, post a video, follow up with an email, do this, do that. It's engaging and it's active. You're going to have better results. And then the last thing I would probably say as far as mistakes are concerned is, honestly, I know I've just already mentioned this, but it's not having the processes planned out. Most people, and it's okay, it happens. Most people jump in a little bit ambitiously and say, I'm going to rock this thing out in the next couple weeks and it'll be done. I'm going to crush it. And things happen, things come up, and it's actually really, really difficult to throw a summit together. So hindsight 2020, one of the best things you can do is to give yourself more time to do your summit than less time. So those are kind of top of minds.
I did not do that this time around, and I'm not a tech person. So when I would come across something like creating a landing page, and I've never done that before, and then it's like, all right, I spend 2 days trying to figure that out, only to realize, I should have had a VA handle that for me.
Yeah. So
I didn't give myself enough time to do this first one.
It's a common thing, but what I will say is I'd much rather somebody jump in and make mistakes and it not be the best summit they've ever run, but have done it and have that experience. So the next one they run, here's the honest truth. Most people's first summit is not their best summit. Their second summit is usually not their best summit. Typically, the third summit and beyond is people's best summit because you're learning. Now, you can kind of, curve that learning curve a little bit by getting help from people or taking online programs or whatever. But it's just the reality. It's better to jump in and do it than to not. So I commend you on at least jumping in there and doing it. Even when you don't know the answers, it's still great. So any final thoughts, anything you'd like to say maybe to the audience listening in, any motivational or inspirational information for our aspiring hosts that are listening to us right now?
Yeah, I think it's been a really fun process. It's been a difficult process because it's new to me. But one of the major things I'm getting from this is that it's opening a lot of doors. And it's getting my business mind to start thinking differently on who I can connect with, who I can help, who I can build relationships with. Because like you said, the real value in this is building solid relationships with other people that are in my realm and in my niche. Because they need help too. I need help, and we can work together and help each other. We can just serve more people and help people in ways that we didn't never realize. So I think part of the fun part is just connecting with people that I haven't talked to in a long time, people I've never met before that are really trying to do the same things I'm doing. So it's actually been a really fun, aside from all the tech headaches I've had, because I'm not an expert with that whatsoever. It's actually been a pretty fun process, and I'm looking forward to getting better and better at it.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to see your summit go live. Make sure you post it in the group over at Hustle and Scale so we can all support you and cheer in on your success. And thank you so much for being vulnerable, transparent, letting us go through the successes, the failures, the technicalities of it, and talking you through this process. So thank you for being here with us, Andrew.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate being on here, and thanks for your advice and insight. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you, all you summit hosts who've just spent this last session with me and Andrew. If you're a summit newbie, haven't hosted a summit yet, but interested in getting some advice from me, Dr. Mark T. Wade, maybe you can be on the podcast as one of our summit newbies. Reach out to us at info@virtualsummits.com and let us know you're interested, and we can take it away from there. Other than that, for any of the information we've said in this episode, you can check out the show notes over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/081. Additionally, don't forget to check out the resources area where you can get some amazing free resources on how to get your summit started. Thank you very much. And just remember, your message matters. So go out and make an impact in the world, and we'll see you on the next session.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.